Last week, we were discussing on the faculty of concentration, and we were looking into the momentary concentration. I think so. Yeah. All right. Where were we? Okay. We were talking about this momentary concentration, and this momentary concentration, they are connected to the vipassana. And this momentary concentration, as you build up, as you develop the insight, this momentary concentration also, they get stronger and stronger as the insight progress. So as it gets stronger, then that is to say that the faculty also becomes stronger. The power of the concentration also becomes stronger. That is to say, when it becomes a power, it prevents all the agitation from coming in. Just like here, as I said, the concentration, then as a faculty and as a power here, when it's become as agitation, this momentary concentration, it prevents the mind from getting agitated. That's why the momentary concentration, they are very powerful. In fact, that they are so powerful at certain times, even all the hindrances are totally disappear, and the mind can only note the object clearly, precisely, continuously. Then this momentary concentration also, as I said, the insight goes up. When I go back down again. Now, as the momentary concentration, as the insight goes up, it goes up from basic momentary, intermediate, and advanced momentary concentration. Here, when it comes to the advanced momentary concentration, then here it looks into it is connected with anicca, dukkha, anatta. Because at this time, really at this time on the fifth onwards, especially on the fifth insight, then sometimes some yogis can able to see the cessation, the dissolution of the mind together with the noting mind together with the body. They can see both of them disappear together, and also they can see both of them appear together again. It's quite interesting actually. So you can see that the mind, how they come together with the body, and as it arises again, then the body comes together with it. So at this advanced momentary concentration, it will take you into a different way of looking, because the wisdom is strong, is penetrative into looking into all these different patterns of arising and passing away, different ways of arising and passing away. Just don't think of arising and passing away as something just arise and pass away. It got its own pattern. It got its own way. Sometimes the arising and passing away of the mind and how the connected with the body, also it can be quite, there's a tinge of difference, but they are still arising and passing away. So keep your mind open. When you come to this, especially in a deeper insight, the arising and passing away and how you see the mind, how you see the body, sometimes they can be very different. And even the mind also, sometimes when you are affected by anger, then the arising and passing away also can be quite different. When you are calm, the arising and passing away also can be different. So it all depends. It all depends. Sometimes even the arising and passing away, when it comes to this one, it can be slightly faster. Something can be slightly slower. So as I said, here they are very dynamic. You have to look at this momentary concentration as a very dynamic thing, not as a something very static. So that's why it is important that while we are meditating, especially in the Vipassana, you keep your mind open. You never know what is going to show it to you. As long as you keep your mind open, then it's very interesting. Then the Buddha said, now the commentary also says that the momentary concentration, when it comes, it occurs uninterruptedly with its respective object in a single mode. In a single mode, that means that when it goes from one object to another object, it can go from 1 second bodily object, another second is a mental object, another second is another mental object. Then it can move from one object to the next object. But here in a single mode means that it can able to sustain its power, it can sustain its energy in the sense that it can keep the mind balanced, well balanced, well balanced and well penetrative. Not like when it takes the body, oh, it's very strong. Then it goes to the mind, then nothing. So when it goes continuously, then you can see that how this momentary concentration is a very interesting concentration. But still, whatever concentration they are, the purpose is just to unify the mind, whether it's momentary or whether they are appana or appana, upachara samadhi, and so on. Now, that one we talk about momentary concentration theoretically, at least a little bit of practicality. But what I want to go for tonight, I want to go here. I want to go here because this is something I'm interested to talk about, and also is something that we can learn how to balance in the samatha meditation. So I'm going to talk about upachara samadhi, or excess concentration or neighborhood concentration, upachara samadhi, and how we apply them in the samatha practice, and how we can able to develop the samatha in a balanced manner. Because first of all, when the moment the mind gets imbalanced, whether you are in vipassana or samatha, when it's imbalanced, that means your mind is not clear. That means your mind is not optimum. But the thing is that this balancing of faculties, a lot of time people do not talk about it much in the samatha meditation. They don't pay a strong emphasis on this samatha meditation. Whereas I noticed that that's when they don't pay attention to it, then there's a lot of problem that arises, especially with the concentration. Okay. Now, in the samatha meditation, how I practice this samatha meditation, I don't have to go through from the beginning, in the sense that in the past, I already developed vipassana meditation. Then with the developing of the vipassana meditation, the momentum, the concentration, the mindfulness, the wisdom has already developed quite sufficiently. Then after that, what I do is just I switch it over to samatha meditation, letting go of the vipassana objects, but carry the faculty over to a samatha objects. Now, when I carry it over to a samatha objects, then because in the beginning part of it, although the faculties are strong, but the faculties are imbalanced. The faculty, maybe because of inexperience in the earlier days, because of inexperience, or do not know there's a balancing and so on. So I just push until the mind goes into really imbalance. Then when I want to convert back to vipassana again, then the whole mind gets stuck. Then I realize that then there's something wrong with the samatha meditation that I'm doing, because I never thought of the balancing of it. No? I never thought of the balancing of it. I thought that samatha, you don't have to worry about balancing, you just do it, that's it. And then that is where the problem comes in. The whole mind cannot meditate. The whole mind gets into gets stuck. So then over time, with the understanding of it, of the balancing, and slowly I begin to apply it in the meditation. That is where the samatha meditation will start to pick up. It starts to pick up. This is where what I've been doing in the samatha meditation. And even like this year, beginning of this year, or the whole of last year, or the previous last year, when I'm doing my daily meditation, I was doing all the time samatha meditation. I jump from metta, then after that kamgwan already, then go karuna, then after that karuna meditation, kamgwan already, then go mudita, then mudita, kamgwan, and then go to upeka, then after that I go to 32 parts of the body, and then after I go to anapana. I keep on jumping for even like last year and over previous year also. Then but now I switch back to vipassana again. Maybe in the future I go and switch back again, when I get fed up with vipassana, then switch again, So over the time, I able to develop certain degree of samatha meditation, and they are quite interesting. But the balancing is very important. Many a times when I listen to samatha meditator, when they talk about samatha meditation, they talk about their sitting meditation, and they talk about their experience of a sitting meditation. And then after that, they said that they between like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, they already attain jhana already. I mean, okay lah, if you can do that, then wonderful, So I give you the benefit of the doubt. So, okay, since you say they are jhana, then describe what have you gone through. If you if you able to do so. When they describe them, this type of samatha jhana, then I noticed that, my goodness, this is not a samatha jhana. This is just over concentration. And one of the biggest factor in the samatha meditation of over concentration is that it becomes very calm, and it becomes too calm until you do not know anything at all. Until your senses is all blur, like your hearing, seeing, smelling, everything all become blur. Then when you get up, after 2 or 3 hours of getting up, your mind is not flexible. Your mind is like floating in a very high feeling. And then walking also, like I feel like you're in the clouds, and then you're always in the high. But that is not, the mindfulness is not in the sense of balance. The awareness is like totally like blur. But then they regard this thing as jhana. But I said, this is not jhana yet. But of course, they will not listen to me because I'm not their meditation master or whatever. But the problem is that their meditation master certify them, lu tan dio jhana liao, ho se liao, job and sign, give you a cert. Jhana already. They regard that this calmness, and then the mind do not know much of anything, and that is all jhana. No, that is not jhana. This is really over concentration, and this is just an imbalance of the faculty. If they keep on doing like that sometimes they get attached to it because it can be very pleasant and very calm and very nice. And it can keep on going and going until one day you realize that they're not going anywhere. Until hopefully they realize that this is not jhana, and at least they can wake up from it now. This is not yet. It's still far away from jhana. Don't think that go into 2 weeks, 1 month meditation, then you can get Jose and everything. No way. Nowadays, I can't say for everybody, but I can say 99% of you will not get able to get jhana. 99%. So if you don't think that you're 99%, that means I always put that 1%. There's always the spiritual genius, just like the academic genius, or just like the children. They are genius. They can skip many classes and they can be very bright. How many percent in our percentage in our society? So do the same thing in the spiritual genius. Maybe less than 1%, but they are still are. But nevertheless, most of us, we do not have that. We have to struggle. We have to develop. Now, here, when we come into the balancing of the faculties of the samatha meditation, whichever samatha meditation that you want to go through. Now, here, if you want to practice this samatha meditation, then I advise you to pick up on the walking meditation of samatha also, not just only on sitting only. That time also, I make the same mistake. Even though my faculties are strong, but when I go into samatha meditation, I thought that this time we don't need to do walking meditation anymore. We thought that walk in the vipassana enough already, and then you go into samatha, and then no need to walk already. Then we thought that okay. Then that is where again the faculty also go imbalance. Go haywire, cannot able to maintain. A lot of go into over concentration. Then I pick up the walking meditation in order to balance the faculties. Now, here in the walking meditation, many times also I heard of when they're doing walking meditation, they're doing on a single object only. Now, for example, if you are doing metta, then they are doing only on metta throughout the whole walking meditation. Then, or if you are doing on, anapanasati, then again, even the walking meditation is only following the in-breath, out-breath. Then when I did those things, I find it, those objects are so subtle, then it cannot able to arouse anything much. Then when a yogi do that, especially in the anapana, this is where they begin to over pushing the mind to try to narrow it down in the breath only while you are walking. While you're walking, although your whole body is so predominant, everything, but you purposely, forcefully hold on it on the in-breath, out-breath. This is the recipe for the whole faculty of concentration to go haywire. Because here one thing is that the in-breath, out-breath is not a prominent object. When it is not a prominent object, what will be affected? Then the mindfulness is affected. When the mindfulness is affected, that means all the other faculties will be affected. Simple as that. So if you do not have a balanced walking, then you carry that over concentration into your sitting meditation. Then you're going to end up with the whole over concentration thing, and without realizing it. So when I did those things, I find that it's so difficult for the mind to able to sustain the mind, the clarity of the mind. Even in samatha meditation, the clarity of the mind has to be there, to be clear. Just like as clear as vipassana. It has to be clear, like in the samatha too, without going into the vipassana objects, all the arising, passing away. We don't go into that. But the mind still need to be clear, whichever object that you are taking. Even if you're taking the metta, your mind has to be clear, free from agitation, free from drowsiness, free from all the negligence and so on. The mind has to still have to be clear. No. And then after that, I find that all this way of walking meditation is not very helpful for me. Then what I do is that I think about my vipassana walking. Now in the vipassana walking, we are being taught to do how to do vipassana walking a lot. And if for me, I emphasize a lot of vipassana walking, and also to the yogis too, then when you do your walking meditation well, then you can see that your sitting meditation also improve. Then the same thing, the same principle here. Why can't I do my walking meditation well in a samatha meditation? If I'm able to do my walking meditation well in the samatha meditation, then my samatha sitting also will able to develop. Then the thing is that to do it well in the walking, that means you have to balance all these faculties while in the walking. You cannot over push on the walking that much. As over push in the sense that you try to grab your samatha object that hard. Because a lot of times the yogis try to, as I said earlier on, they try to grab that object, although it's so tiny, but they still want to grab it. But now, as I said, the object is so tiny, but why don't I forget about the object? Now, this is what I do. Let me go back to the screen sharing. Today, nothing much on the screen, actually. It's just only these two only, actually. E, D, C, etc. Then in the walking meditation, I will divide that walking meditation into two parts. One is the mindfulness part, and second is the main object part. That means if you are doing metta, then metta will be the main object. If you are doing anapana, then anapana will be the main object. If you are doing karuna meditation, compassionate meditation, then karuna will be the main object. Now then I break it down into the two parts. Because also in the vipassana walking, then here, when it comes to the vipassana itself, then the vipassana object, vipassana objects also, we are taking it up. Vipassana objects here, especially when you go into the very deep, in the sense of the lifting, pushing, dropping, when you're going very slow, and you're trying to notice it very clearly, all the sensation that is picking up, those are vipassana objects. Okay, those are vipassana objects. But when you are doing quite fast, like one phase, two phase, right step, left step, right step, left step, these are only arousing a lot of mindfulness. This is where it's number one, This is where number one. So in the walking meditation also, in the vipassana, there is a mindfulness part, and also there's a main object part, which is the hardness, softness, and so on. Those are the separation of the two parts. So too, I bring that same principle into samatha meditation. Then I divide my walking into two parts: mindfulness and the main object. Mindfulness and the main object. Now here, when you're doing mindfulness in the walking meditation, first of all, you forget about your metta, karuna, anapana, sati, and whatever object. It's just, a lot of you have been doing vipassana meditation, right? And you're doing right step, left step, right step, left step. Very good. Then during in the samatha meditation, then do that also. Because you're not going into vipassana yet. Yeah? You're just arousing mindfulness. You're just arousing mindfulness from there. You're not noticing anything changing, anything hard, soft. So you don't worry about it. Yeah, you don't worry about you going into vipassana. As long as you don't go too slow. Yeah. Because if you go too slow for vipassana meditator, they'll start going into noting, into more precision noting already. But when you are going into just a right step, right, left step, then this time is just arousing that mindfulness. So what I did is that I used this right step, left step, being aware of the body, sometimes be aware of the thighs, be aware of the calf movement, or sometimes the ankle, sometimes the knees, sometimes the hips are swinging, sometimes the shoulders are moving. Those are vipassana. So those are mindfulness only. It arouses that mindfulness, and it's good to arouse that mindfulness because the principle of mindfulness is that you have to have a prominent object or prominent objects. So use that. Use a prominent object. Proximate cause for mindfulness to arise is prominent objects, clear objects. So use that clear objects, use these clear objects of the body to arouse the mindfulness. And don't worry about your anapana, don't worry about your metta. Because many times I mentioned also, when the mindfulness comes, it will come by default, the concentration will follow through. You don't have to purposely go and push the concentration in the beginning part. All you need to do is make sure that your mindfulness must be there. Develop that mindfulness. As the mindfulness comes, then the balanced type of concentration will follow that mindfulness. So that's why mindfulness comes first in the samatha meditation. Any form of samatha meditation that you want to do, make sure that the mindfulness comes first. So that's why it is important for us to understand the quality of that mindfulness, theoretically and practicality. When it arises, you know that it is there. So because of my past vipassana meditation, so when I bring it to samatha meditation, then I can able to aware of that mindfulness is already building up. So I take my time. I be patient. I don't rush into trying to get into my samatha object. No, build up that mindfulness first. Gently build up. Right step, left step, right step, left step. And then if the right step, left step not so clear, not so able to give you any much mindfulness, then switch over to the another object, to the thigh movement, to the hips movements, to the shoulder movements, or to the whole leg, both leg movements. I keep on switching. Somehow I keep on switching. Then the mindfulness gets growing. Then after that, I switch to number 2, the main object. Or sometimes, if I find that my mindfulness is not come to a continuous yet, then I push that one phase, or sometimes I go slightly even more slower as the mind starts to calm down. But I remain with the steps. Not like lifting, dropping, but able to feel the steps only, just feeling the whole step, but in a more slower phase. Not as slow as your lifting, pushing, slowly you're dropping, not as slow as that, but slow enough that the mind can still able to follow the movement of the body. And then that time, I know that the mindfulness is getting stronger. But then I don't go and quickly go and sit down. Just build it up first. Sometimes I go until 1 hour just doing number 1 on mindfulness. It's like starting with a bit faster, then go a bit slower, then go slightly a bit slower. then able just to pick up the momentum on the mindfulness. But when I'm going to sit down in a sitting meditation, then when it changes into the main object so easily comes in. You don't have to struggle because the momentum has already built up. So this is one of the ways that I do. So sometimes I just go on to whole sit walking. It's just mindfulness. Just build up that mindfulness. Now, sometimes in the walking, I go one, and after that, I go number two. Because when you go to number two, you got to be ready because these objects are subtle objects. Even in the vipassana objects are subtle objects. When you go into the lifting, pushing, dropping, they are subtle objects. So your mind has to be clear, has to be alert, has to be sharp in a certain way. Now, let's say you want to do metta meditation. Then you've built up sufficient amount of mindfulness. Then what do? Then with that walking that you do, not too fast and not too slow, that your mind can still able to go into the right or lift or just a very slow right step, left step. Then this time you switch over to metta. You switch over to metta. May I be free from all kinds of harm and danger. May I be free from all mental suffering. May I be free from all physical suffering. May I be well. May I be peaceful. May I truly be happy. Then that is where you slowly goes in. Then after that, you repeat, but you keep on walking. Slow, very slow, gentle walking. Slow, gentle walking. No need to hurry, no need to try to end the walking. When you come to the end of the descent, end of the walking, when you're standing, and then it's the same thing. You're aware of your metta. Then after that, you slowly expand it out. Later part, maybe another time we'll talk about how we expand the whole metta thing. Now we just talk about the technique of the walking only. Now, after a while, you find that you build up that metta, and then initially you can able to build up that metta. You feel that your mind is able to begin to spread the metta around to yourself and also around the beings around you or the people around you. Then well and good, perfectly well. But the problem is, just like any form of meditation, the hindrances will come and kacau you again and come and disturb again, And then after that, you start thinking again. You start going into hallucination, looking at things here and there. So what do? Back again to number one. Back again to number one. Forget about the metta again. Back again to the mindfulness again. And back again to the mindfulness. Then after that, when you feel ready again, then you switch over to your metta again. Now, in the vipassana meditation, also we do the same thing. When you do the lifting, pushing, dropping, when you are able to be clear, then you continue. You're able to notice. But when your mind is not able to handle the objects of the lifting, pushing, dropping, or very slow walk, then what do? Then you go back, go faster again. Then you go faster again, go walk, build up that mindfulness again. Then after that, try again. Same thing, same principle. It's the same principle. So when I did that, I find that sometimes even there are certain walking, I can able to develop that metta. And especially when it comes into the standing time, I can go into a very quite deep concentration actually. I can go into a deep concentration. After that, for a while, then I come out again. Then after that, I carry on the walk again, spread the metta again. And then after that, if I find that things are not well, then I switch back to mindfulness. Then this is how I finish an hour of walking. And it becomes very interesting actually. Then the mind can able to sustain the mindfulness and the balancing of that concentration and all the faculties in a very easy manner a much easier manner. Then with that building up of that faculty of that mindfulness and concentration and all the five faculties, and then bring it over to the sitting meditation. Yeah. Let's talk about sitting meditation. But before that, yeah, sometimes people say that when you do samatha meditation, everything must be only one object only. Yeah. Like for example, as I said earlier on, if you do anapana, walking also anapana, sitting also anapana. That is how the mentality is like, you know. When we are doing walking, when we are doing vipassana meditation, especially the Mahasi method, why don't we do the walking meditation and noting the rising and falling? Why we go into to the steps? Why don't you just follow the rising and falling in the walking meditation? Why don't we do that? Since sometimes there are teachers and they say that you cannot do so many objects at one go. You must do only one object. Why don't in some vipassana meditation we do that? And those who have done vipassana meditation the Mahasi way, we know that the mind can switch over from a walking experience where you take up a lifting, pushing, or dropping. Then after that, when you come into a sitting, you can immediately switch over to the rising and falling. You just don't hold on to your steps anymore. You just don't hold on to the sensation on the feet anymore, but immediately can go to the rising and falling. And through the training, the mind can switch from one object to the next object. From a rising, falling to a walking, or from a walking experience to a sitting. They are in a way, they are different. You know? Physically, they are different. So do the same thing also. When you come into samatha meditation, the mind also can switch. If you are good at it, it's only about training only. So how to switch? So it's switching between mindfulness and the object and the samatha that you wish to develop. So you want to develop metta, then you do like that. Mindfulness and its main object. Mindfulness or its main object. Yeah. So when it comes to the anapanasati, also the same thing. Usually, when it goes into anapanasati, then during the movement of the leg, then the leg is always more clearer. So it's a bit difficult, at least for me, it's much more difficult to hold on the breath. But when I stop, when I go into a standing position, then when I go into a standing position, my mind automatically goes back into the anapana. When I go back to the anapana, then because of the momentum of the mindfulness we just developed, and then bring it to the standing meditation, then again, the mind goes into a deep concentration. Go into a deep concentration for a while. Then after that, I want to come out, I come out of it, then carry on the walking again, mindfully. Sometimes also during in the walking meditation, when the steps become, the mindfulness become powerful, sharp, and once in a while the mind goes into a deep concentration also. In a deep samatha concentration, but not on the steps. But then after that, when you go deeper, then suddenly in the middle of the walking, then I stop already. Because the samatha object becomes so obvious. Then immediately stop. No, gently, not immediately. Gently, then when it comes to automatically stop, then the whole mind goes into a deeper concentration. So this is how walking meditation is being taken up during in this one. Maybe in future, after we finish all these talks, maybe we should start the online retreat already. Then we do on metta. And we don't do it 2 or 3 days lah. We do it like 1 month or 2 months, No lah, 1 month or 2 months you cannot lah. It's not to say 1 or 2 months cannot, but it's about consistency. Yeah? It's about consistency. You don't have to. You don't have to do it like a retreat. We can do it like every day you meditate. We can switch over to metta meditation. Instead of samatha meditation, we can switch over to some metta meditation. And for that 1 month, we all do metta meditation. And you see, with that, how much the metta can able to grow. A lot of times when we do metta, we are sporadic here and there. Tampo here, a little bit, 3 seconds here, 4 seconds there. Cannot lah. Then not much you can able to grow. So if you really want to grow in metta, you need to switch over to metta. Then continue with the metta for 1 or 2 months. And then even the talk that time, we can talk about metta only. The development of metta and reminders of metta. And then perhaps also we're going to have I'm thinking maybe we're going to have an interview also, live interview also, chat or interview, and then we can discuss on our development of metta, formally, the formal sitting, walking, and also in the daily life aspect. Then when you do that, you see that within a month or 2, you can actually grow some metta. Just like you grow your plants, all you need to do every day to make sure you tend to it, put some water, see whether all these snails don't come, eat all your plants and this and that. Then something like that. All we need to do is learn how to grow that metta. Maybe lah. We'll see lah. We'll see. Giving talk only, and then you're known. No, nothing. Pandai only lah. Gao only lah. When it comes to meditation, cannot do anything. So we need some application of it. After all, especially those in Malaysia, we are not going to go anywhere yet. with the numbers are so high, and also with the change of government. What a joke. And then we're not going to go anywhere yet. So most probably we'll still be staying at home. Yeah. So anyway, come back. So as I said, walking meditation, there's 2 parts of it. Mindfulness part of it, or the main object part of it. Later on, perhaps maybe if we are doing another time, we can look into the walking meditation much more deeper than what I talked just now. So with that, walking meditation, it helps to keep the mind balanced because the mindfulness is there. And together when the mindfulness is there, when you need to do the metta or you need to anapana, then it can able to build up, even in the walking too. But the best thing is that when the walking is, all these faculties is transferred into a sitting meditation of a samatha. That become very interesting. Because a lot of times when we do the sitting meditation, that is where we straight away muscle into the in-breath, out-breath, and we try to hold on to the in-breath, out-breath. Or we try to hold on to the metta. Because, and mindfulness also not much there. Effort also not much there. But you want to hold the mind there already. That is where the problem comes in. Just like when you are doing vipassana meditation, if you don't, for those who have gone through a retreat, if you don't do your walking meditation properly, let's say you do oraka and then you go and sit. And when you go and sit, you force your mind into the rising and falling. You force your mind there. When you force your mind there, your mind gets very tight and very tense up, and after that, cannot work. So you need to do a good walking meditation. When you comes into the sitting meditation, this is where immediately your mind can go into the rising, falling very clearly already. immediately can able to see the whole rising, falling sensation moving here and there very clearly. And that is interesting. So do the same thing in the samatha meditation. Now, in the samatha meditation, a lot of time people say that, oh, Bhante, when I do the samatha, after that, my mind goes into sleepiness. After that, my mind goes into thinking. I cannot able to hold the metta. I do the metta, after that, I forgot the lines already. Hey, after that is what already? A lot of times we forget because why? The hindrances are all attacking you. Because mindfulness is not strong. There's no fundamentals. The fundamentals is not strong, and then you cepat, you want to go into concentration already. That's where a lot of yogis get stuck into it. So again, the same principle here. In the sitting, and here sitting also, it's the same thing. Mindfulness and main object. Again, the mindfulness and main object will be the same thing. But this time, it's different. This time, because the mindfulness has built up in the walking meditation, then there are more time you can pay attention to the main object. If sometimes the main object not clear, you can always go back to a sitting meditation with mindfulness. Not with vipassana objects, but with mindfulness. So to the same thing, the same principle we could apply, but this time more of the main object. Because why? Because sitting meditation, you are not moving anymore. The sitting meditation, you are not moving, and it's easier for the mind to go into the single object. Okay? Now, so what do? Bring your whole strong faculty that you've developed from your walking meditation through just now what I have described. Build up that mindfulness, that clear mindfulness. Then you go into the sitting. Adjust your posture properly. And once you take up, go to your in-breath, out-breath, or to your metta. Now let's just start with metta. Now when you go to the metta, now here immediately, because of the fundamentals are there, then immediately you can go into a metta. Now, may I be free from harm and danger. Again, may I be free from all mental suffering, free from all physical suffering, free from all. May I be happy, may I be peaceful, may I be well, something like that. Then when you go through those lines, as you go through those lines, then you generate that metta. Again, that generation of metta, again, we can talk about it another time. Then after that, you go from yourself to the people around you or the beings around you, then you go bigger and bigger and bigger, wider and wider, and then all the beings in all the whole universe and all the realms. Or sometimes you want to begin with metta, and then you want to focus it on yourself and also focus it to somebody that you respect. So when you focus on that to somebody that you respect, then you generate the metta to the person. To the person who is alive. Then if you can able to do that, if you find that you are comfortable to do that, then as the metta grows, then good. That means that the mindfulness is growing together with the metta, or the metta is growing with the mindfulness. And then you can find that as it grows, your mind is still alert. Your mind is still clear. If you find that the way of doing metta is that finally we begin to simplify everything, Beginning we have more lines, then later on as the mindfulness grows, as the clarity grows, as the hindrances getting less, then the lines also become less and less and less and less, until sometimes only one line only. Until one line, then only you generated that metta to whichever group or whichever person. And then finally, even the lines also, we let it go. only mentally generating metta. Then you sustain that metta for a long period of time. That takes mindfulness, that takes training. This is how we begin to simplify the metta until the metta is purely metta only on that particular object. Later part, another day we can dwell into it much more deeper. So here it is important that when all the hindrances are not affecting you because of that mindfulness you build up from that walking meditation, then you can actually do that. You can actually do that. And yet the mind is alert, clear, and not fall into like drowsy like or very calm like, or even the metta also disappear. If your metta disappear, then something wrong with you already. You're not developing metta. You're already going into over concentration already. So the line is a very fine line between a clear metta and over concentration. It's a fine line. So too when there's a fine line with anapana and also with the over concentration. So it is important for us to have that mindfulness and also that wisdom also can able to differentiate out these two. So that one, the further techniques of the metta, we can talk about it another time. But then when the mind is get affected by all the hindrances again. Let's say you meditate and then after that you find that, oh wow, thinking starts coming in again, start thinking again, start pressuring again. I say, not right anymore. So what do? Then you go back to the mindfulness of the body a bit. Because the mindfulness of the body, it's a very good place to arouse mindfulness. So again here, you don't go into the vipassana object. You take up just the whole body sitting for two. Just the whole mind, let go of the metta. Just keep the mind to the body. Keep the mind to the body, like sweeping from the head down to the buttock, sweeping a few times, just to arouse back the mindfulness. Forget about the metta for a while, because stop the metta for a while, regenerate that mindfulness. So when you regenerate that mindfulness, it's very easy for the mind to get balanced again. Then after that, you continue back to the metta. So too, sometimes even you know about balancing of faculties, you will, as I said, you will still go into imbalance also. The mind will still go too much. That too, when you do metta, for example, until you find that the metta become like nothing, gone, very quiet. Then suddenly you realize that, wrong already, not right already. This is too much concentration. So what do? Bring the whole mind back again, spread out the mind to the whole body. Because when you go into concentration, as the concentration gets overwhelming, it tends to like narrow down into a very tiny focus. And we get narrowed down, and then if you get stuck too long, then the whole consciousness also become very blurred. So what do you do when you realize it is that you begin to spread it out again. Then where to spread out? You spread out the whole body. You spread out the whole body. You're aware of the whole body for a number of times until you feel that the mindfulness has picked up. You feel that it's picked up, then you go back again to your main object, to your metta. This is how you balance the faculties in the samatha meditation. Even if the same thing, if that you find that the faculties cannot be balanced because sometimes you over push your whole meditation and then you get too concentrated. You try to build it, you bring up to your body, tak boleh, also cannot, also very hard. Then that means there's something wrong. Then get up and do the walking again. And then go for a walk for a while. Walk for a while, just rebalance that mindfulness again. If not, if you push too hard, then the whole metta will go into haywire, or the whole anapana also will go into haywire. then when the faculties are when you know these faculties are getting better and better, how to sustain them in the samatha meditation, then you become very proficient samatha meditator. Yeah? Any problems, any imbalance of the faculties, you can tackle it, you can able to overcome it in a much better manner. Yeah? So don't underestimate, as I said, don't underestimate the walking meditation in the samatha also. Yeah? And it can help you generate quite a lot of mindfulness, and therefore it is very helpful for your samatha development. When we talk about samatha in other times, we will definitely going to talk about this more, because this is one of the very crucial part of development of samatha. Because if you don't have a balanced faculties, especially like when you do the anapana, when you have that nimitta that arises in the mind already. When the can you still hear me? Is the internet okay? All right now. So when the samatha becomes no, where we're talking about. No, when the samatha, especially the anapana, when that anapanasati becomes much more clearer, when it arises with the nimitta already, and this time when is that mental created nimitta, then you learn how to sustain the nimitta as best as you can. And that needs again a lot of mindfulness. You need a lot of mindfulness before that mental created type of object is not, they do not disappear. They can able to stay for a continuous period of time. So you got to take note of those things. Nevertheless, we are not able to go far. I mean, talk about it further and further, because this one is going to be technical, and also it's going to be, each and every one of us is going to be quite different or slightly different here and there. So therefore it is important to understand the faculty. You have to make the practice, you have to do the practice in order to do the trial and error. Okay? Now, in the next talk, when it comes into the vipassana, when it comes into the vipassana type of balance, then there are more things, more ways that we can able to adjust the whole balancing in much more finer manner, or in different ways we can bring the mind back into the balancing. Okay, so that will be on the next talk on Wednesday. All right, that's it for tonight.